If you've ever watched a room implode in slow motion, you know exactly what I saw when I raised my glass and delivered the final toast. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. 3 hours earlier, I was straightening my collar in the mirror, my pulse annoyingly calm. The house was lit perfectly, the wine chilled, the lamb marinating in the kitchen, and our dining room was set to host Samantha's birthday soiree, her intimate but upscale vision of celebrating her 35th. It was her night. But it was also, in a very twisted way, mine. She floated around the house like a queen, making subtle adjustments to every flower, every place card, every candle. She wore this deep green, off-shoulder dress that hugged her like a lover, her collarbones dusted with gold shimmer. She looked stunning. Hell, even I couldn't help but watch her for a second too long. After 12 years of marriage, she still knew how to command a room. But beauty doesn't make a person innocent. It just makes the betrayal more cinematic. Guests started arriving just before 7. Familiar faces, her co-workers from the marketing agency, our neighbors, a couple from our gym, and our two best mutual friends, Derek and Melissa. Everyone brought bottles of wine and big smiles. I played the doting husband, swirling through conversations with practiced charm. It wasn't an act. It was strategy. Dinner was loud. Laughter bounced off the walls, the clink of silverware, the soft jazz in the background. It was all perfectly choreographed. Samantha loved hosting. She thrived on compliments, and tonight, everyone was laying them on thick. Then came dessert. A double-layer chocolate espresso cake from the bakery she loved downtown. I poured everyone another round of wine. That's when Melissa, already a glass too deep, said something about Samantha being way too radiant to be a regular wife. A few chuckles followed. And then Samantha, laughing, leaned into the punchline that would change everything. Well, I mean, someone has to make up for my husband's lack of endurance. A pause. Then explosive laughter. Her coworkers hooted. Derek raised his eyebrows. Even Melissa tried to muffle a laugh behind her wine glass. I didn't laugh. I looked at her, really looked at her, and smiled. Not tight, not fake, just calm. Then I stood and gently tapped my glass. To Samantha, my beautiful wife, I said, you've worked so hard this year. Late nights, so many hours at the office. I think we're all impressed. Especially me. She blinked. The room quieted. I raised the glass a little higher. So allow me to toast to your success. And also to thank you for the down payment on my new condo with your secret OnlyFans income. Dead silence. I swear, you could hear someone's breath hitch. Derek choked on his wine. One of her coworkers audibly gasped. Melissa stared at me with her mouth wide open. But it was Samantha's face. God, I'll never forget that look. A mask of panic, confusion, and pure horror. She tried to laugh. Okay, very funny, she said, her voice tight, high-pitched. He's joking. You're joking, right? I sat back down. Took a sip. Not even a little. She stammered. You're making a scene. No, darling, I said softly, setting my glass down. I'm just getting started. Her eyes searched the room for allies, but they were all frozen, unsure what performance they'd just become part of. I could see her brain spinning, trying to find an escape route. But the exits were sealed, metaphorically and otherwise. Why don't you explain to everyone how I found out? I asked her, my tone calm, almost amused. More silence. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was calculating, deny everything? Make it a joke? Deflect? So I helped her. She left her burner phone in her gym bag. I said casually, now addressing the room like a bored professor. I was looking for protein bars. Found a second phone. Unlocked. No password. What I saw, well, let's just say I'll never look at yoga mats the same way again. One guy, some junior coworker I didn't recognize, turned bright red and looked down at his plate. Her lip trembled. David, this is not the time. No, I said, leaning in. The time was when you filmed yourself masturbating in our bed while whispering the name of a subscriber called Big Daddy Crypto. That was the time. This is just the encore. There it was. The crack. Her mascara smudged from a single accidental tear. Her mouth parted but no words came out. I could see her breaking, right there in the candlelight. The table sat in stunned silence, forks hovering midair, glasses untouched. I stood and loosened my tie. Enjoy dessert, everyone. Samantha, you might want to check your email. I just sent you a link to your new business partner. She didn't ask. She didn't have to. I saw the blood drain from her face. Because I had bought the domain name of her OnlyFans stage name, registered the LLC in my name. And tonight was just the beginning. I walked out of the dining room, the candle flames flickering behind me like they were trying to whisper secrets no one else dared say out loud. The joke was over. I was just getting warmed up. It all started with something stupid. She asked me to grab her pre-workout from her gym bag. That's it. That's all she said, casually, like she hadn't just handed me a grenade with the pin already pulled. I was standing in our kitchen, bleary-eyed and half-dressed, pouring coffee into a mug when she poked her head in from the bathroom. "Hey, babe, can you grab the red container out of my gym bag?" Bottom pocket. Just like that. No suspicion. No tension. The bag was sitting by the back door where she always dropped it after her morning yoga sessions. I crouched down, unzipped the bottom compartment, and there it was. Not the pre-workout. A phone. Not hers. Not the iPhone she never let out of arm's reach. This one was smaller, older. No case. Just loose, tucked between a rolled-up sports bra and a used towel. And right then, something shifted in my gut. Call it instinct. Or maybe after 12 years of marriage, you learn to trust the way your stomach knots before your heart has time to catch up. I stood there holding it for a second too long. "Find it," she called from upstairs. Yeah, I lied, grabbing the pre-workout and slipping the burner phone into my hoodie pocket in one fluid motion. I didn't say anything else that morning. I handed her the container, kissed her goodbye, and watched her walk out the door in yoga tights that suddenly felt a little too tight, her ponytail swaying like she didn't have a care in the goddamn world. The second the door clicked shut, I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the phone. No password. No Face ID. Just unlocked. What I found wasn't a smoking gun. It was an open archive of betrayal. The first thing I noticed was the OnlyFans app. Not the user version, the creator one. That orange icon just sat there, bold and unapologetic. I tapped it. Instant access. Videos. Photos. Messages. Private requests. I wish I could say my heart stopped or that I felt like throwing up, but I didn't. I felt calm. So calm it scared me. She called herself Sammy Sin. I'd seen her wear the same outfit she had on in one of her videos, one of my old dress shirts, unbuttoned to her navel, a tie loosely around her neck, straddling a chair. The title of the clip was "Naughty Office Wife Teaches Her Boss a Lesson." The comments were worse than the content. "You got curves for days, girl. That ass could solve world hunger. Can you do a custom where you say my name? I'll tip big. I'm jerking it to you so hard right now, baby." She replied to almost all of them. "Thanks, babe. DM me, let's get personal. But you'd love to see what I can do with that tie." I backed out of the app and went to her photo gallery. That was the moment the reality set in. Dozens of videos. Screenshots. Her in lingerie. Her using toys I'd never seen. Her naked on our bed. Her moaning into the camera, whispering names that weren't mine. Some were solo. Some weren't. The burner phone was her portal to another life. One I'd never seen. One she never intended for me to know about. And that's when the anger started. It wasn't just the sex. It was the lies. The layers. The organization behind it all. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. It was a full-blown business. She had spreadsheets for subscriber tips. Links to payment processors. A folder labeled "Top Tippers Money with Wings." Even notes on what they liked. She was running a goddamn enterprise in secret. And the money? Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, all routed through an email address I didn't recognize. I opened her PayPal, logged in with the saved credentials. Thousands of dollars. Thousands. She was making more on the side than I was at my full-time job. That night, she came home from yoga and smiled at me over a glass of wine like she didn't have cum-drenched videos waiting in her drafts folder. I smiled back. Said I'd missed her. I fucked her that night, hard. Not because I wanted to, but because I wanted to know what it felt like to be inside a liar. To see if she flinched. To see if she moaned differently now that she had an audience in her head. She didn't flinch. She moaned like she always did, perfectly timed. Performed. Mechanical. And when she passed out next to me, I got up and sat in the dark with that burner phone. Downloaded everything. Screenshotted every message. Exported every bank transaction. Saved every file. This wasn't a mistake. It was a campaign. She wasn't just cheating. She was profiting. And I was going to make sure she paid every cent back. With interest. You know the funny thing about betrayal? Once you spot the lie, you start seeing them everywhere. They multiply like mold in the corners of your life, disguised as late-night meetings, unread text messages, or in Samantha's case, yoga class that ends at 11 p.m. That night after discovering her burner phone, I lay in bed beside her and watched her sleep. She looked peaceful, as if she hadn't spent the last 6 months getting off on camera for strangers. It was the last night I allowed myself to feel anything like a victim. The next morning, I became someone else. A man I didn't fully recognize, but damn, was he useful. I became the supportive husband, the kind who asked how her day was going, who encouraged her to follow her passions, who said nothing when she stayed out late, who nodded sympathetically when she complained about being exhausted all the time, who cooked dinner more often, who texted her just enough to make her feel adored, and never enough to seem clingy. Behind the mask, I was documenting everything. I started small. I downloaded every photo and video from the burner phone to an encrypted cloud drive. I even backed up her entire OnlyFans message history using a custom scraper I paid some guy on Reddit to build. Her PayPal activity? Synced. Her subscriber list? Copied. I wasn't just watching her double life. I was becoming its silent administrator. She never noticed. Why would she? I played it perfectly. When she told me she was working late again, this client's been such a pain, I offered to prep dinner for her when she got home. "You're too good to me," she said, leaning in to kiss me with those same lips I'd seen wrapped around a silicone toy 2 nights earlier in a subscriber video. I smiled. "You deserve it." Meanwhile, I was tracking her location through the iCloud she forgot to unlink. That client she mentioned? A warehouse in the industrial district. The same place where one of her subscribers, Rico_Nights, claimed he got to taste that tight little mouth. She never suspected a thing. I even bought her new lingerie. Just because, I said. She squealed like a teenager. "God, I love you." It was a silk bodysuit, crimson red with delicate black lace. I'd seen her wear something nearly identical in one of her most popular videos. I watched as she modeled it in front of the mirror, her eyes alight with pleasure, not for me, but for the idea of who she'd be wearing it for. "Take a picture," she teased. Oh, I did, but not for the reasons she thought. Each lie she fed me, each half-truth, each excuse, each breathy, "I'm so tired from yoga," was another brick in the fortress I was building. I wasn't just collecting evidence. I was preparing a war chest. Bank statements, email receipts, screenshots of her chats with DaddyDom69 and FitFunBucks. I even created a spreadsheet color-coded by date, income, and position. I knew more about my wife's sex life than she probably did. I knew which videos got the most likes. I knew her top tippers. I knew when she filmed, where she filmed, what toys she used. I even recognized my own fucking tie in 2 of the clips. The thing is, part of me was fascinated, watching her put on the performance of a lifetime while I stood off stage, arms crossed, quietly clapping. She was sexy. There, I said it. My wife, who hadn't looked at me with that hunger in years, was radiant in front of the camera. Bold, wild, shameless. She moved like she was on fire, chasing orgasms that didn't belong to me. It was the kind of sexuality I hadn't seen in our bedroom since our 2nd anniversary. Sir Nightly Need. And now, she was dripping that energy for strangers with usernames like Sir Nightly Need and WifeStealer87. The irony was brutal. I'd wanted that side of her for years. I thought maybe it was gone. Turns out, she'd just been saving it for subscribers. One night, I brought it up, gently. The mask stayed on. "Hey," I said, sitting beside her on the couch while some Netflix show droned in the background. "You've seemed lighter lately. Like, more confident." She turned to me, smiling. "Really? Yeah, you're glowing." She laughed. "Maybe I've just been focusing on myself more. Letting go of some things. Tapping into new parts of me." I took her hand. "Whatever it is, I like it." And that's when she kissed me. It was slow, intentional. Her hand slid up my thigh, and her tongue flicked across my bottom lip. And for a brief moment, I forgot everything. My body remembered what it was like to crave her. Her scent, her skin, her curves in my lap. We had sex on the couch that night. And the whole time, I kept my eyes open. Because I wanted to see her. The real her. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted her to see me. But she didn't. Not really. She was too busy playing her role. And I played mine. By week 3, I wasn't just collecting evidence anymore. I was participating. See, when you study a person long enough, especially someone who's selling themselves, you learn the market. You figure out what sells, what moans work, what angles tease just enough to make strangers part with their money, what filters get the most hearts. Samantha, bless her delusional heart, was a decent performer. But she wasn't strategic. She was sexy, sure. But she was leaving money on the table, and I don't just mean metaphorically. I mean literal PayPal tips she missed because she forgot to reply to certain messages. So I gave myself a new name, James the Collector. I created a clean identity. Subscribed to her page. Sent her a DM, your curves belong in a museum. You ever do customs? She answered within 20 minutes. Her tone was flirty, eager, like she didn't know the man behind the screen used to kiss her shoulder while she brushed her teeth every morning. I do, she wrote back. What did you have in mind, James? I paid her $50 just to say my fake name during a video. Then another $100 for a little roleplay scene where she called herself a bad wife who can't stop craving strangers. She filmed it in our bedroom, wearing my old shirt. And she moaned, God, James, you're so much better than my husband. I should have been furious. I was rock hard. But more than that, I was profiting. See, every time I tipped her as James, I was using a prepaid debit card I loaded with money from her PayPal account. I was recycling her income, just laundering it through a fake persona she thought was one of her best fans. She started messaging James outside the app. You always know exactly what I want to hear. I feel like I can be real with you. You get me? No, sweetheart. I own you. And the best part? I began to steer her content. Wear that crimson bodysuit again. Film something using your husband's tie. Talk about how you're sneaking around while he's downstairs. She followed instructions like a submissive to a dom. Her kinks? I used them like levers. And while she rubbed oil on her thighs for strangers, I opened a new bank account, one she didn't know existed. Sammy Sin Enterprises LLC. Registered under my name. All incoming funds rerouted through James the Collector Consulting Services. She thought she was getting paid through OnlyFans. In reality, she was paying me. By the end of the month, I had enough to put a down payment on a luxury condo downtown. High-rise. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Doorman who didn't blink when I walked in alone. It was sleek, cold, minimal, a complete contrast to our cozy home of vanilla candles and monogram throw pillows. It was mine. Paid for by the woman upstairs, moaning for strangers on camera while I watched the footage from my new leather sofa. There was something twistedly poetic about it. She used my name, my space, and my absence to build her fantasy life, and I turned it all into real estate. She liked calling herself powerful, independent, a sexual entrepreneur. And here I was, flipping the script. I didn't stop there. I started commenting on her posts as James, suggesting poll ideas, asking for new themes, encouraging her to monetize her fantasies even more. Soon she was uploading daily. Custom requests, tip menus, live streams. Her following doubled. So did her income, which meant mine did, too. I watched her ride dildos in our shower. I watched her pretend to be a secretary caught masturbating at work. I watched her say James like it meant something. And the whole time, I kept smiling. Because she was building an empire. But I was the king. There was a moment, too, maybe, where I felt the edges of something darker. Something primal. Like I crossed a line. Like I wasn't just getting revenge anymore. I was getting off on it. The control. The secrecy. The fact that I could make her do anything with just a tip and a message from a fake name. One night, I sat in bed beside her while she scrolled her feed, giggling at a comment James had left. You think this guy's legit? She asked, showing me the message. I read it, my own words. You're addicting, Sammy. I want to see what you look like when you're completely owned. I smirked. Seems like a fan. She laughed. He's obsessed. I kissed her on the cheek. No doubt. By the time Samantha hit 20,000 followers and passed the 5-figure mark in monthly earnings, I had every piece I needed. I knew the content schedule. I knew her fans. I knew the lighting rig she'd secretly ordered on Amazon using our joint card. And I knew exactly where she stored the scripts she wrote for her most authentic scenes. What she didn't know, I was already halfway through writing my own script. She called it liberation. I called it leverage. She didn't see me slowly stepping back from our finances. Didn't notice when I stopped using the shared credit card, or that I created a business development budget in our household spreadsheet right under her nose. She barely paid attention to anything outside of her next shoot, and she never noticed that our accounts were slowly becoming mine. The first play was legal. I hired a lawyer. Discreet, expensive, precise. She specialized in divorce, asset shielding, and silent transitions, as she called them. I told her everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything: screenshots, usernames, earnings breakdowns, even the burner phone's I number. She raised her eyebrows once, maybe twice. The rest, she handled like a surgeon. We filed paperwork, but nothing that would trigger suspicion. A quiet trust. A quiet name change on a holding company. Quiet exits from joint liability. She helped me set up Sammy Sin Media Holdings, an umbrella corporation that now owned the rights to James the Collector Consulting, plus all content produced under the name Sammy Sin. All of it. Every moan. Every lick. Every DM. Owned. By me. And Samantha? She gave me the rights herself. How? She came to me 2 months earlier asking for help formatting a release form template. Said one of her OnlyFans collab partners wanted to be safe for content use. I smiled. Of course, babe. Happy to help. I opened Word, copied a generic waiver, and rewrote it line by line. Subtly. Legally. She signed it. Twice. Said I was the best husband ever. Damn right. But I wasn't done. The trap needed a stage. A trigger. A moment so undeniable, so shattering, that it would leave no room for backpedaling. No way for her to twist it into some misunderstanding or fantasy that got out of hand. She needed to be seen, and not just by me. So I gave her a party. Her party. Her birthday, to be exact, her idea. We should do something fun and classy, she said. Host it at home. Small, intimate, but with flair. She made the guest list herself. Close friends. Coworkers. A few neighbors. Her best friend Melissa. 2 guys I didn't know, until I cross-referenced their usernames. That's right. 2 of her top OnlyFans subscribers were invited to her birthday party. One of them had paid her $500 for a girlfriend experience package last month. The other had tipped her nearly $2,000 over time and once wrote that he wanted to meet her in real life. Oh, buddy. You're about to. I made sure everything was perfect. House cleaned, candles lit, curated playlist humming through the speakers. Wine chilled. Dinner catered by a chef she'd followed on Instagram for months. She was radiant that night, tight burgundy dress, smoky eye, the same perfume she wore on our first anniversary. She leaned into me before guests arrived, brushing her lips against my jaw. Thank you for doing this. I know you've been working hard lately. I held her gaze for just a second too long. Oh, it's no trouble at all, I said. Tonight's important. Her smile faltered, but only slightly. The room filled quickly. Laughter bounced off walls, and wine flowed like water. We played games. Toasted to memories. She told some ridiculous story about our honeymoon in Greece. Everyone laughed. She was in her element, loud, proud, charming. That's when she made the joke. The one that started it all. Something about my endurance. Or lack thereof. She said it like it was cute. A playful jab. Everyone laughed. Everyone but me. I smiled. Raised my glass. And thank you, darling, for the down payment on my new condo with your secret OnlyFans income. Silence. The room shattered like a glass dropped on tile. But that wasn't the finale. Not even close. Because I had prepared something better. I stepped away from the table. Picked up a remote from behind the bar. Clicked once. The screen behind me lit up. Her face. Her videos. A slideshow of Sammy Sin in all her glory. Moaning, licking, writing, whispering the names of strangers. Gasps. Whispers. One of her coworkers dropped their wine glass. Melissa looked like she wanted to vanish. Samantha just froze. Mouth open. Eyes wild. Color draining. I turned to her slowly, letting the image linger. Welcome to the real Samantha. The moment her face appeared on the screen behind me, the air in the room collapsed. No one breathed. No one moved. The image was tame, by her standards, a soft smile, sultry eyes, that crimson bodysuit clinging to her curves like it had been sewn on by lust itself. Her thighs glistened. Her hand was mid-slide between them. And behind her? Our bedroom. Our fucking headboard. Samantha didn't speak. She couldn't. Her jaw moved, but no sound came out. It was like I'd ripped the floor out from beneath her, and she was still free-falling. I let it sit there, the image. Then I clicked again. The next slide was a screenshot, one of her private messages. From James the Collector. You're intoxicating. Can't wait for tonight's custom, Sammy. And below it, her reply. Anything for you, baby? Should I use the tie again? Laughter died in people's throats. You could hear chairs creak as guests shifted uncomfortably, unsure whether to run or offer condolences. Melissa's face was a portrait of betrayal. Derek stared at his wine like he was begging it to teleport him elsewhere. Samantha's boss, Juliet, who'd spent the first hour of the night bragging about Samantha's leadership skills, looked like she'd swallowed a live bee. Samantha finally found her voice. Barely. David, what is this? She whispered. I turned toward her, all faux confusion. What? I thought you wanted to show everyone who you really are. She stepped toward me, hands shaking. This is a joke, right? Some sick joke? I took a slow sip of wine, then turned to the guests. I think what she meant to say was, welcome to the premiere of her most successful work yet. Click. Another video clip began to play sound on. Samantha, bent over our dresser, wearing nothing but lace stockings and heels. Her voice, breathy. God, I wish my husband knew how to fuck me like this. A few people gasped. Others just left. One of her coworkers muttered, Jesus Christ, before grabbing his coat and bolting for the door. Her top fan, yeah, that guy stood in the corner, frozen, his drink untouched, his jaw slack like a man who'd just seen God, or the IRS. Samantha lunged for the remote. I let her take it. She fumbled with it, frantically pressing buttons, trying to kill the slideshow. Too late. The damage was done. Her face had been exposed to everyone that mattered. The respectable image she'd crafted, the clever, poised, marketing guru who loved Pinterest boards and chai lattes and curated playlists, was obliterated. And there she stood, in that stunning burgundy dress, shaking like a leaf in a thunderstorm, trying to explain the unexplainable. It's performance art, she stammered. A project? Satirical, David, stop this. I stepped closer. Close enough to smell the panic on her skin. You've been selling yourself online for the better part of a year. In our bed. In my shirts. Behind my back. And now, in front of everyone you invited, the curtain drops. Tears welled in her eyes. She glanced around the room, searching for an ally. Melissa took a slow, stunned step backward. Even she couldn't save this. You're ruining me, Samantha hissed through clenched teeth. I leaned in, voice calm and low. You did that all by yourself. Then I whispered in her ear, so only she could hear it. I own your brand now. Her head whipped toward me. What? You registered Sammy Sin on OnlyFans, but I registered the LLC. Every photo, every video, every dollar belongs to me now. Her knees nearly buckled. She tried to speak, but it came out as a sob instead. The last of the guests slipped out the front door, awkward and silent, like people evacuating a funeral they weren't supposed to attend. Her boss muttered, "We'll talk," and walked out. And then, it was just the two of us. Her trembling. Me, calm. I walked over to the screen, shut off the projector, and poured myself another drink. You wanted power, I said, swirling the whiskey. You got it. Now let's see how it feels when someone else holds it over you. She was still crying, fingers clutched to the edge of the table like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Why are you doing this? She asked. I turned to face her one last time. Because you didn't just cheat on me, Samantha. You built a business off it. So now? I'm just collecting dividends. Samantha didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of our bed, well, her bed now, since I'd already started calling the condo home, shaking and silent, phone clutched in her hand like it might hold the answer to everything. She must have refreshed her Instagram 1,000 times. Notifications kept pouring in. I'd left right after the last guest fled. Walked out the front door, cool and collected, like I hadn't just detonated a social nuke in our living room. By the time I got to my new place, a high-rise, clean white marble floors, and walls that didn't know her perfume, I had text waiting from Melissa. What the fuck? David? Is this for real? Please tell me it was a joke. She's having a breakdown. I didn't reply. Instead, I poured a glass of champagne and pulled open the analytics dashboard I'd built for Sammy Sin Media Holdings. Subscriber activity? Spiking. Views? Doubling by the hour. Some people saw her birthday reveal as porn, others as gossip. Some just couldn't look away from the car crash. And the best part? Every click, every view, every tip came to me. I told her earlier in the night that I owned her brand. She didn't believe me. Until the next morning, when she tried to log into her OnlyFans account and found herself locked out. She called me 11 times. Left 5 voicemails. The last one was a scream. David, what did you do? This is my life. You're ruining my life. No, sweetheart. I was simply cashing the check you wrote with your betrayal. The fallout was brutal. Her boss fired her the next day. Not over the content. Officially, anyway, but for ethical misrepresentation and conflict of brand standards. Juliet had been sitting beside a client at the party when Samantha's ass graced the projector screen. There was no salvaging that. Her LinkedIn went dark. Her influencer deals dropped her overnight. A meal prep company she used to post about issued a soft PR apology, saying they value professionalism and stand by wholesome, empowered content creators. Translation: not someone who fingers herself in a husband's tie while whispering "Daddy Crypto." Her best friend Melissa blocked her on everything. She reached out once to me, a voice memo. "I love her, but what the fuck, David? I didn't know. I didn't. I swear." She lied to all of us. Samantha's social media began to hemorrhage followers. Screenshots of her videos leaked across Reddit, Twitter, private Discords. Her Instagram DMs? A battlefield. One message stood out. "Your husband played you like a violin." And we all heard the song. The irony was she'd built her identity on female empowerment. "Sensual energy is power," she once posted. "Never apologize for knowing your worth." She'd used her body as a brand. Now that brand had a new CEO. Me. She begged me to take the content down. Emailed me at the company account I had created, her company. I replied only once. "I'll consider taking it down for a buyout." Her response? Silence. Then rage. Then threats. "I'll sue you," she texted. "This is illegal. It's revenge porn. It's theft." I expected that. So I sent her a PDF. The release forms. The ones she asked me to pretty up for her when she needed them for collaborations. The ones she signed herself. Except the ownership line? I'd slipped my name in. Twice. She'd signed them. Initialed them. Scanned and uploaded them. She'd voluntarily handed over rights to every inch of her exposed body. She didn't reply, but she did post something on Instagram that night. A photo of her in silhouette, captioned with a vague, melodramatic quote. "Sometimes the worst betrayals are from the ones you love most." Comments were disabled. Of course they were. The comments that weren't disabled were on her own content, now repackaged and rebranded. A new channel. A new aesthetic. Same moans. Same face. All mine. Subscribers still poured in. Half of them came for the drama. The other half still just wanted to jerk off. Samantha? She vanished. Deleted Twitter. Private her Instagram. Tried to pivot to TikTok, but word followed her like a bad smell. She tried emailing me again. This time it wasn't rage. It was begging. "Please stop. Please. I know I messed up. Just let me move on. You've made your point." I stared at the screen for a long time, then replied with a link. Her link. To a new post. Title: "When Wifey Gets Caught and Still Has to Perform." Thumbnail: her, bound at the wrists, looking back at the camera with that practiced pout. I signed it. James the Collector. The first email came from a lawyer. Cease and desist. Plain subject line. Attach PDF. Formal as hell. It was laughable, really. Samantha had finally lawyered up. Or, more accurately, panicked and found someone to try and clean up the mess she'd helped spread wide open online. The letter was full of official language, defamation, emotional distress, unauthorized use of likeness, exploitation of adult content. I read it with a whiskey in one hand, my bare feet propped up on the balcony railing of my new place, the skyline flickering like applause. I took a sip and smiled. She was desperate. But this wasn't panic. This was performance. She wanted to pretend she was still in control, that there were rules I had broken. But here's the thing, there were. Hers. And she broke them first. I forwarded the letter to my own lawyer. "Amanda." She replied 20 minutes later. "This is adorable. Want me to handle it?" God, I loved her style. But I said no. Not yet. I wanted to respond myself. One last little game. I wrote a formal reply, addressed to Samantha's attorney. Polite, cordial, and very, very final. "Dear Mr. Feynman, thank you for your letter dated, redacted. Please note the following. All content associated with the digital persona known as SammySin is hosted under the registered entity SammySin Media Holdings LLC, a legal entity owned and operated solely by myself, Mr. David Lang. The likeness, voice, and video rights to all associated material were secured via signed release forms, attached, voluntarily submitted, and executed by Ms. Samantha Lang, under the legal advisement of no coercion. The original content was produced on jointly owned property, using jointly owned equipment, prior to the dissolution of financial partnerships between parties. No defamatory language has been used in any publication. All shared material was either directly produced by Ms. Lang or legally submitted to SammySin Media Holdings under terms she approved and signed. Furthermore, As the LLC holds full commercial rights, the usage is not revenge porn, but rather redistribution of licensed material under a sole proprietor brand. Please advise your client to review her own contracts more carefully. Sincerely, David Lang. I attached the forms, highlighted signatures, and I even included a screenshot of the PDF metadata showing she had uploaded the documents herself from her laptop at 9:43 p.m. on a Tuesday night 2 months ago. Amanda CC'd herself, just in case. Samantha never responded. Her lawyer didn't, either. But I got the message loud and clear. The fight was over. Because now, she knew she'd lost the legal ground. What was she going to do? Sue me for using content she gave me rights to? Complain that I owned her image when she sold it before I ever touched it? She'd exposed herself, literally and figuratively. The paper trail was airtight. And the irony? She asked me for help with the legal documents. That's what broke her the most. Not the projector reveal. Not the Instagram leaks. Not her career crumbling. No, it was the quiet realization that I had used her own trust, her own laziness, and her own vanity to take everything back. The signature on the rights release was hers. The content? Hers. The idea to register the LLC? Also hers. Well, maybe I should make it a business, she'd once joked over wine, before I knew about the burner phone. Start a real company. Sexy CEOs are in, right? She giggled. I remember watching her swirl the stem of the glass between her fingers. There was a gleam in her eyes. I laughed with her. But I remembered that. And now? I was the CEO of a brand she built with her body and signed away with her pride. A week after the legal letter died in silence, she tried a different tactic. She showed up at my condo. Same dress she wore at the party, tight, low-cut, now wrinkled and slightly off-center. No makeup. Hair in a loose bun, like she tried to look vulnerable and effortless at the same time. That old Samantha move. She stood outside my door like a ghost. Pale. Fidgeting. When I opened the door, she didn't speak at first. Her eyes welled up. Then she said it. Can we just talk? No lawyers. No contracts. Just us. I leaned against the frame. Why? Because you're my husband. No, Samantha, I said. I was your husband. Now I'm your publisher. She blinked. Flinched. Then she asked me something I wasn't expecting. Can I buy it back? That's when I knew it was done. She wasn't angry anymore. She wasn't righteous or indignant or trying to make me out to be a monster. She was defeated. She didn't want to clear her name. She just wanted her brand. And it was no longer hers. I didn't sell it back to her. Not even for the 6 sum she offered. Not because I needed the money, but because it would have meant giving her back control. After all that? No. She didn't get to own her narrative again. She'd handed me the keys to the kingdom with her signature. Now she could watch through the glass while I lived in the castle. She tried every approach. First came the tears. Then the apology. Then the guilt. And when that didn't work, the seduction. Maybe we could start over, she said one night, voice soft, fingers brushing along my forearm. We could use the content, together. Make it a real business. A partnership. She was sitting on my couch in my condo, wearing a low-cut blouse and the kind of lingerie she used to wear only for her fans. I stood up, picked up her phone from where she left it on the coffee table, and texted her the link. A link to her latest video. Her face. Her moans. Her brand. Rebranded under a new title, The Fallen Wife. She stared at it, then looked at me like I'd slapped her. No one will respect me again, she whispered. Respect isn't profitable, I said. Content is. She didn't come back after that. For a while, the texts kept coming, late-night pings, one-liners filled with equal parts regret and longing. I miss you. We could have fixed this. You don't even miss me at all? Sometimes I'd reply. Not with words. Just with links. To her own content. Content she no longer controlled. Every time she saw that watermark, STMH, Sammy Sin Trademark Holdings, I imagined her jaw tightening. Her pride corroding. Eventually, she stopped trying. I'd won. But here's the thing no one tells you about winning. It's quiet. No applause. No fanfare. Just silence. A good silence, sure. But still empty in its own way. I moved into my new life slowly, like slipping into a warm bath. The condo came alive with art and clean furniture. I stopped checking the old accounts. Unfollowed every mutual friend. I changed my routines. Took up boxing again. Read more. I even started seeing someone. Emily. She's different. She doesn't talk about hustling or branding. She reads books without telling people she reads. She doesn't post for attention. She just exists in a steady, warm kind of way. A woman who doesn't need the world's validation to feel real. When I told her about Samantha, some of it, not all, she just nodded. People always underestimate how quiet betrayal is, she said once. Yeah, they do. Samantha, meanwhile, tried to rebrand. She created a new OnlyFans under a different name, new photos, fresh filters, a vague promise of a comeback. But the internet never forgets. Reddit threads popped up instantly. Twitter dug into her old content and reshared it under the new alias. Her subscriber numbers were dismal. She couldn't escape her own ghost. Every man she tried to date knew what she'd done, and every brand that once flirted with her edgy empowerment wanted nothing to do with her now. The world she'd built on the illusion of control had collapsed under the weight of truth. One night, around 1 a.m., I got a message on an old account I barely checked anymore. "You destroyed me." I sat with that for a second, then typed back, "No, you did that. I just gave the world a front row seat." She never replied. That was the last message I ever got from her. 6 months later, I stood barefoot on the balcony of my high-rise condo, sipping champagne and watching the city exhale into dusk. The skyline buzzed softly under a bruised pink sky, all golden edges and neon flickers. That kind of quiet that makes you feel untouchable. The glass in my hand, a gift to myself. Dom Perignon, vintage, a reward, not just for surviving, for thriving. The woman I once called my wife had given me a business. She just didn't know it. She built the content. She built the brand. I built the machine around it. And that machine was humming. The analytics dashboard I opened daily like a prayer told the full story. Samison Media Holdings LLC had grown, not just maintained, grown. After the fallout, the exposure, the collapse of her social world, her name, or at least the one attached to her thighs and her voice, and that smirk she used to save for the camera, had become internet legend. Not scandalous, not shameful, mythical. The rebrand helped. I changed the logo, recut old clips, added subtitles, created best of compilations, repackaged them for Reddit, built a website, then 3 more. I hired a content editor, paid a cam girl to impersonate her in new voiceovers. No face, just thighs, curves, heels, voice. It was enough. The fantasy didn't die. It evolved. Hell, the fans didn't even care if it was really her anymore. They just wanted her brand of sin. And I owned it. Subscriptions soared. Traffic doubled. Affiliate links, tip tiers, exclusive collector merch. I turned it into a machine. I launched an NFT set that sold out in hours. Moments of Sin. 8-second clips, looped and labeled. Numbered. Limited edition. Blockchain-backed. Samantha? She tried to sue again. Didn't work. She tried to go viral again. Didn't work. She tried to launch her own healing podcast to talk about betrayal, misogyny, and digital exploitation. It flopped. Why? Because the internet didn't want the voice of the victim. They wanted the moan. And I had that. In 4K. 60 frames per second, licensed and monetized. People ask me sometimes, quietly, when the drinks flow, if I ever miss her. If I ever feel bad. The truth? Sometimes. I miss the version of her I thought existed. I miss the early days, when she used to hum in the kitchen while making coffee, when she wore my shirts just because, when we curled up on the couch and planned fake vacations we never took. But that version of her died long before the OnlyFans, long before James the Collector. The version that smiled at me while filming videos for strangers in our bed, that version never loved me. She loved the attention, the power, the clicks. And now, she lives in the loop, forever moaning, forever performing, forever profitable. The company I started with her stolen spark had expanded into a network, Sin Studios. I bought the domain, the rights, the branding. I even hired voice actors to record moans that sounded like her. Taught an AI to replicate the breathy way she said, "Baby." It's not revenge anymore. It's just business. On my phone, a new alert blinked. Another wire transfer. Another payout. Another subscriber. I set the glass down and walked inside, my bare feet soft against the cool tile. The place was silent, save for a low hum of the air conditioner. Emily, my girlfriend now, was curled up on the couch, reading a book. No makeup. Hair messy. She looked up and smiled, and it wasn't for show. It never is with her. I kissed her cheek, and she tilted her head to let me linger there. Everything okay? She asked. I nodded. Just checking the numbers. She smiled. Still climbing. Always. She didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. She knew about the business. Not all of it, but enough. Enough to know what came before. Enough to understand what kind of man I became. And enough to know I wasn't chasing ghosts anymore. We sat there for a while, her legs draped across mine, my arm over her shoulder. The past flickered behind my eyes sometimes, like an old film reel, messy, raw, loud. But not tonight. Tonight, it was just champagne, silence, and the hum of an empire quietly built on a lie. A lie she told, a truth I sold, and a name that now belonged to me.